So I'll be discussing the legal section of the CLAT with you guys. And uh, as you all know, the syllabus was changed and this caused a lot of disruptions. तो हम लोग अब ऐसा करेंगे कि are you guys familiar with the new syllabus, the new pattern? All of you, the changes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So there is no very broad change. One change which has been there is that the passages would be a bit longer, and rather than getting legal principles, you might be getting situations which involve an application of law or policy, right? So you might get newspaper articles or scholarly articles from some journal which would be dealing with some niche area of law or some policy concerns, and then you'll be given uh, the questions and four options which you have to mark the most appropriate one from. So again, still the basic thing remains same, that we, and yes, because the length of the passages will increase, one change that brings us here is that we need to be aware of the various areas of law that might come in the paper, because if we take a lot of time reading those passages right there, it might hamper us, as in you might consume more time in legal because the passages are longer, and if they're complicated and you take more time to understand them, as in you don't understand, if you don't understand while reading it once, what happens, you have to read it either more number of times, which wastes time, or you leave the question, which wastes the time that you have already spent reading it once. The idea is to familiarize ourselves with the basic areas of law where, yeah, those areas where we will be dealing with. So we can start with an example. I'll share a question with you guys, and let's see how we fare with this. I'll just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, please read the passage. Like, I give you like say 5 minutes. At 4:10, 5 minutes is too much. 3 minutes. 4:08. Okay, I will read the passage once for convenience. So this says, last week the government used the drug price control order 2013 to increase the price ceiling for 21 medicines by as much as 50% to ensure their availability in the market. This is a welcome move because lower prices would have further limited the welcome move because lower prices would have further limited the availability of these drugs, some of which include those used for malaria, leprosy, and allergy. The decision by the regulatory authority, usually known to reduce prices of essential drugs, prompted by repeated petitions by the pharmaceutical industry, which pointed out that the increasing cost of imports had made the production of some of these drugs unviable. Prices of bulk drugs and active pharmaceutical ingredients have, in fact, gone up by 88% and are largely imported. This raises a basic question: should the government control prices? The motivation for controlling drug prices is not very difficult to understand. Unlike some of the developed countries where most of the population has insurance coverage on medical facilities are provided by the state, medical expenses in borne by citizens, largely through out-of-pocket expenses. Therefore, the state intervenes by keeping prices of some drugs in check to contain such spending. However, the unintended consequence is that it affects the supply of drugs and can potentially make citizens worse off. The risk of non-availability was an important reason for raising prices. Although all pharmaceutical companies may not stop producing drugs with price control, they may limit supply. Further, the government usually dithers on price hike because of political consideration so that it is not accused of favoring private companies. Thus, the government should stay away from dictating prices and allow the market to function. Competition in the marketplace will ensure that no company is able to make extraordinary profits in basic and essential drugs. Since the state has limited resources, it should focus on regulation and ensure that the quality of drugs supplied in market is not compromised at any point. Is the passage clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now we look at the question. This is the question. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
No, sir. Can you please read the question?
Okay, I'll read it out. Sure, no problems.
Thank you.
Question is, based on the author's argument in the passage above, which of the following would be most correct? A. The state should not prices of medicines since this would hamper the development of international pharmaceutical companies. B. The state should control the prices of medicines since it would also be manufacturing the drugs itself. C. The state should not control the prices of medicines since the market would determine the best price for such drugs. D. The state should control the prices of medicines since citizens are more likely to fall ill often.
Option C.
Anyone wants to answer?
Option C, sir.
Option C, sir.
And why do you say so?
Through elimination, it is clear that first is not the option since international pharmaceutical companies is not mentioned anywhere. And
Okay.
the second option, they haven't mentioned about state manufacturing drugs itself, so it can't be the option.
Okay.
And the last one, D, the state should not control prices. And they have not given any reference regarding this also. So C seems to be the most accurate one.
Fair enough. So you get how you did this. Elimination is a process that you can use, but it's better that you go through the passage. I mean, elimination should be the last step. Passage talks about free market everywhere. Doesn't it? So C would be the answer. Now, there's one more question at the same passage. Give it a hand. Oh, I'll read this out. An medicine, Formula A, is used to treat cancer, and there is only one company engaged in its manufacture. If this is true, then based on the author's reasoning in the passage above, there are four options. A. The state should not control the price of Formula A since it should allow the market to function. B. The state should control the price of Formula A since there is no competition in the marketplace and it cannot function to control the price of the medicine. C. The state should ban the sales of Formula A and ask patients to consider using some other medicine that is made by more than one manufacturer. Or D. The state should take up the manufacture of Formula A itself.
Option B.
Yes, option B.
Okay, and why do you say so?
Because in the passage it was mentioned that the drugs which are there in the market, there are many other competitors for its manufacturing. But over here, the Formula A medicine is manufactured by only one company. So there is no question of there being a competition. So the prices won't be the best in such type of market.
Fair, is the right answer. So we get at the basics of how such questions have to be solved. Now we'll do one or two more questions and then we'll start with the subject matter itself. So this is a fairly simple question. Give it a try. Says the principle, It is a case of fraud where a party to a contract knows or believes a fact to be true, but conceals it actively from the other party with the view to induce that person to enter into the contract. Fair? Now the facts. Facts are, while taking a life insurance policy, in reply to just a minute. The facts are, while taking a life insurance policy in reply to the questions by the insurance company during the inquiry into his proposal, Zamir deliberately concealed the fact of his medical treatment for a serious ailment, which he had undergone only a few weeks ago. The four options: A, this did not amount to fraud as the disclosing would have resulted in exposure of his privacy. The act of Zamir amounted to innocent misrepresentation. C, did not amount to any misrepresentation. Or D, it amounted to fraud.
Option D.
D.
Option D, sir.
D.
D. Any other answers? Okay, then why D?
Because the facts show that Zamir deliberately concealed the fact of his treatment to have the insurance company to make a contract with the insurance company.
And it is clearly written that it will be considered a case of fraud. That's why option D. Concealment will be seen as a case of fraud.
So now we need to learn how to read into principles. Your answers are right, but you need to get into how to reason it correctly. Every time you see a principle in this fashion, you identify essentials of it. The essentials of a contract. Here, essentials of a fraud, essential ingredients. First is these are the three essentials. First is the person should know or believe that it is true. See, the concealment should be active. And third, that the intention of such concealment should be to induce the person to enter into the contract. Now you check into the facts. You say, did he know that it was true? Yes, he knew. Did he conceal it? Yes. And did he have a view to induce the company into the contract? Yes. So then you can say it is a case of fraud. This way you would not miss anything if you use this approach, because you will get a hard copy paper in the examination. You can just underline the essentials. And one more thing, if you do certain number of questions, you would know the essentials of offenses or other legal eventualities. The last question, then we start with something. So this is easy. Try your hand. Do I need to read this out? Okay, I'll read it anyway. There's a principle which says no confession made to a police officer shall be provoked against a person accused of an offense. No confession made to a police officer shall be proved against a person accused of an offense. Now B feels guilty about killing A and writes a letter to the police officer in his district and confesses to killing A. Options: A, the letter is a confession can be proved. B, letter is not a confession as it was not made to a police officer. C, a confession can never be a letter. Or D, both A and C. Any tries?
Option A.
Is it option B?
Okay, both give your reasons. Why A and why B?
Sir, okay, you go first.
Thank you. Option A, because this principle states that no confession to police officer shall be proved against a person who is accused of an offense. Here, B is not an accused, he himself goes and confesses it.
Okay. And why B?
Because it is okay. I'm not so sure now.
No, but give it a try. Fine.
Sir, over there in the principle, it is said that no confession made to a police officer shall be proved against a person accused of an offense. And here, the letter is written to a police officer, and hence it shouldn't, and hence it can be used as an influence.
Okay. Mm, so, sorry, I don't remember your names. Uh, the one who said, uh, anyone else wants to give it a try? Anyone? Okay, fine. The correct answer to this question here is B. Now you go to the principle. It says no confession made to a police officer shall be proved against a person accused of an offense. Important parts are confession, leave a space, and then made to a police officer. I put in other further. And then proved against a person accused. So, I mean, it's an interesting uh, point of view that you say it's not accused yet. But the more important fact is, what does the word confession mean? Is the letter confession? Can you guys Google confession on your phones? I mean, dictionary. Check it out. What does it mean? Read it out. I'll open my axe right now.
So it means a formal statement admitting that one is guilty of a crime.
Okay. Formal statement admitting that one is guilty of a crime. And what does confession made to a police officer imply?
That he is guilty of killing A.
Okay. I mean, I think there's an error in this question now. Even I feel so. There is an error here, definitely. Sorry for the. Go to 131 straight. Options were erroneous. Any hints at 131?
Is it B again?
Why? Did you say so? Give reasons to your answers, please. Makes my and your jobs easy.
Option A.
Yes, option A must be.
Okay, I'll tell you the answer. A is the right answer. Why are the confessions made to police officers not admissible? This provision comes from the CRPC where it says, I mean, you don't need to read CRPC for flat, but still comes from CRPC where it says uh, any admission of guilt or confession made to a police officer shall not be admissible in court of law to be proved against the person accused. The only reason this was given was that there is a possibility of confessions being forced by the police. And you know that in a criminal trial, the burden of proof is on the police. The police is supposed to prove the guilt of the person, in absence of which the person would be deemed to be innocent. Now, if confessions are allowed, the police, to make its job easier, can very easily say रात भर डंडा मार मार के जेल में सुबह सुबह साइन करवा लेंगे किसी भी चीज पे. Get my point, right? So this law was put in place. Now that I see most of you seem to be fairly familiar with the pattern, I'll just start with the subject. What all have you studied in legal yet? Any heads up that I could get?
In legal, we are done with contracts, with torts.
Okay.
Now criminal law is going on, and some miscellaneous part.
Okay. So constitutional law is left. I was also
Yes,
asked to take
constitutional law is also.
Yeah, it is also done constitution.
This done. Okay. So can we just do some exercise in contracts only
Yes, sir.
to start with? I mean, let's have it. So, can one of you tell me what is a contract?
An agreement enforceable by law.
Okay. And where do we get this from? Contracts in India are governed by the Indian Contract Act. This is an 1872 legislation, but still stands valid because, I mean, there have been no changes in it except a few amendments. Now, you said a contract is an agreement which is valid in the eyes of the law. Now, what are the essentials for such a contract?
First of all, the parties to the contract should be competent,
Okay.
and that the object of their contract should be legal.
Fair.
Consideration to the contract must be there.
There should be consideration, yes. And
Free consent is important of both the parties.
okay, the consent should be free, yes. And so essentials of a contract, you guys were right. But essentials start with what are important for a contract. First essential is in presence of offer, acceptance, and a consideration. Without having an offer or an acceptance, you can't have a contract.
Yes, sir.
Plus, it's visible.
Yeah. So this is the Indian Contract Act. Although it's a big legislation, but you need to read specific parts of it. I mean, the materials that you get, just take parts from this act and give it to you. So most of you have read this act actually. So this is not a very new thing that I'm introducing. You have read most of it anyway. So okay, offer is referred to as a proposal here in this act. So start with communication of the proposals. Now, can we identify the essentials in section 3? Am mean, this is how you'll be doing your questions. It makes your task easy. Anybody? Essentials of it?
Communication of acceptance should be given.
Okay.
And also same goes for the revocation then. If they if they revoke the contract.
So here are three parts to it: communication, acceptance, and a revocation. Now there are two parties to a contract, you all know. Communication of a proposal would be done by the offerer who makes the proposal, and then the offeree or the person who the offer is acceptance or a revocation. Now this is the communication of proposals, the acceptance of proposals, the revocation of proposals, and acceptances. You can have a revocation as well. Are deemed to be made by any act or omission of the party, something something, by which he intends to communicate such whatever it is doing, or which has the effect of communicating it. Deemed to be made by any act or omission of the party proposing, accepting, or revoking, which has an effect of communicating it. Why is it repeated? Okay. So any act is complete when the communication happens. This is the essence of this section. Now, if I ask you a question saying A makes an offer to B $1,000. A agrees to sell his house to B for $1,000. Offer, sorry. B agrees to buy his house for $1,000. Now, what is the state of the contract? Is it valid?
Acceptance.
Is it? Yeah, A offers that he'll sell his house for $1,000. B says, okay, I will buy your house for $1,000.
The contract is valid.
Valid.
Okay. And now what happens if A refuses to sell his house? B next day comes with $1,000 and A says, okay, no, sorry, goodbye. What happens then? So you said this was a valid contract when A offered to sell his house. B agreed to buy the house for the same price. Next day he comes with the money and then A says, no, sorry, I changed my mind. I will not sell my house to you. What happens then?
It is considered as breach of contract now.
Okay, so this is a breach of contract. And okay, what happens when a breach happens?
The person may go to court.
And go to court and
He may file a plea for the breach of contract.
okay, and what will the court do?
The court may
What are the
ask him
remedies?
to pay for damages, or he may ask to give him compensation.
Okay, so two possible remedies: either compensation, that B suffered uh, whatever loss, or A has to make good for it, compensate, or a second remedy can be a specific performance. Court can instruct A to actually follow whatever he had contracted, actually sell his house for the price agreed upon, specific performance of a contract. These are the possible remedies to it. Now I'll try to see.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
128, the topmost question.
In C.
C.
Option C.
E option.
Option C.
Option C.
Okay, fair. This is a pretty straightforward question, but reasons again why. Tell me the essentials.
Consent was forced. It was not willful consent.
No, I get the answer. Tell me the essentials from the question principles. What are the essentials of these three principles? 1, 2, 3.
First essential was free consent.
Okay.
Second was the consent shouldn't be taken by illegitimate force,
Okay.
and that the illegitimate force means doing or threatening to do something which is prohibited by law.
Not only prohibited, anything which is contrary to the law. Contrary is broader than prohibited. Now, yeah, so you get it right. Well, any other issues that you guys are facing in legal by now? Because I see very few people responding. Any specific types of questions or any area of law that you're finding difficult or need more push into?
So there are a few types of question where few principles are given, like in this question, but the facts regarding the questions are changed with the questions. So
Okay.
they seem to be quite difficult when we have to change situation in every question.
Okay. So then the easier way out is, again, as I said, identifying the essentials of the principles and see where is the closest relation with the facts, because there would be some relation at least. It might not be a direct relation as it was in this case, might be very distant, but wherever it finds a closer nexus to the issue identified, you mark that option. It usually goes your way. Guys, speak up. There are 34 of you, and I've heard like 4 or 5 of you speaking.
So can you differentiate between homicide and murder and the presence of intention in it?
Okay. So, culpable homicide and murder. You guys have studied syllogisms, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You can look at culpable homicide, I'll say CH and murder for as in CH being the bigger circle and murder is a smaller circle within CH. So all murders are CH, but not all CH are murders. Okay. This is the structural understanding. Now you get into where what is CH and what is murder. I'll again take you to straight to the horse's mouth because it is the best way to do it. Just look at the essentials. What does it say? It says culpable homicide, whoever causes death. So first essential is the causation. Someone in my criminal law class last month had actually raised a question on this saying, "Ma'am, मरा नहीं तो क्या वो culpable homicide हो तो सकता है, but नहीं हो सकता." That was a stupid question. First essential is someone has to die for it. Because homicide means the death of an individual, killing of an individual. So whoever causes death, first part. Second part, doing an act. So there has to be an act with the intention of causing death or with the intention of causing such bodily injury as is likely to cause death or with the knowledge that he is likely by such act to cause death. The three possibilities. Either the person has to have an intention to cause death or has the intention of causing a bodily injury, but the injury is likely to cause death. So there is a causation here. either you say I want to kill, say, person A, I have an intention of killing him, or B, I have an intention of causing a bodily injury. से मुझे उसको गाड़ी से धक्का मारने का मन हो रहा है, तो मैंने उसको कार से धक्का मार दिया. आई कॉज अ बॉडीली इंजरी. मेरा इंटेंशन मारने का नहीं था, बट वो मर गया, एंड आई नो दैट इट इज लाइकली टू कॉज डेथ. मुझे गाड़ी से मारूंगा तो कोई मर सकता है, इज एन ऑब्वियस. आई मीन यू नो दैट देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी, नहीं भी मर सकता है पर मर भी सकता है. और विद द नॉलेज that, sorry, this was knowledge, this simple knowledge that you're likely to kill someone by an act, and this was intention of causing injury as is likely to cause death, as in you might not have the knowledge that it is likely to cause death, but it is a fact that it is likely to cause death. Say सर पे बड़ा सा डंडा मारना. Now डंडे से मारना is usually not a inherently very dangerous act, लाठी से मारना, but सर पे लाठी से मारा बहुत जोर से और सर फट गया उसका, उसको इंटरनल ब्रेन हैमरेज हो गया या ब्लीडिंग हो गई, स्कल के अंदर ब्रेन में ब्लड जमा हो गया. नाउ दिस इज अ इंजरी व्हिच वाज लाइकली टू कॉज डेथ इन ऑल प्रोबेबिलिटीज. यू हैड नो इंटेंशन ऑफ किलिंग द पर्सन, बट you had intention of causing an injury which was likely to kill. These three essentials are culpable homicide. Now they can be murder as well, because murder is a smaller circle within the bigger circle of CH. Now when we come to murder, we say there are 4 clauses to it. First part makes all of it clear. The part I've highlighted. This is the part which tells you everything about CH and murder. Except in the cases hereinafter accepted, culpable homicide is murder. So there are 4 kinds of acts which are accepted. Except all of them, culpable homicide. I mean, ये 4 में आएगा तो मर्डर होगा, इसमें नहीं आया अगर वो एक्ट, अगर एक कल्पेबल होमिसाइड का एक्ट इसमें नहीं आया तो वो कल्पेबल होमिसाइड में ही रहेगा क्योंकि पहले से कल्पेबल होमिसाइड था. इसमें आ गया तो मर्डर भी हो जाएगा, which is a higher offense. Am I clear or is it confusing you? कुछ तो बोल दो.
Is a bit confusing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is actually confusing as a subject. This is confusing. Okay, is it visible?
Yes.
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 So this is the basic structure. Now you get the text. Now in a question, when you see a situation, first you establish whether it is a CH or not. So there are options which is it is culpable homicide, it is murder. Actually, if it is a murder, it is definitely culpable homicide, but you're being asked whether it is a murder or not. So first you establish that it is a CH, and then you test it on 4 grounds. अगर एक में भी आ गया, किसी एक के भी दायरे में आता है, तो that is a murder. If not, वो CH में रहेगा. Now I'll put down all those 4. Just a minute. Okay. First is, if the act by which the death is caused is done with the इंटेंशन ऑफ कॉजिंग डेथ. सेम टू सेम 299 CH में भी था, but it is an aggravated form. You say where the act is caused by death is caused by an act which was done with the intention of causing death. So I wanted to kill B, therefore I mixed say poison in his food and he died. This act is murder because I did it with an intention of causing the death. So this would be your first. Why do I put it? Second would be if it is done with the intention of causing such bodily injury. Now essentials again becomes easier. Intention is of causing a bodily injury. Okay. Now this bodily injury is qualified by the word such as the offender knows to be likely to cause the death of the person to whom the harm is caused. Now this act does not need to be likely to cause death in all probability. It needs to be likely to cause the death of the person to whom the harm is caused. Torts में पढ़ा था eggshell rule. Anyone remembers? Guys, am I audible?
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Okay. I'll do something with my internet. Hotspot. Is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay. So, firstly clause was clear. Secondly, it says intention. The act is done with an intention of causing a bodily injury. The bodily injury should be such as the offender knows to be likely to cause the death of the person to whom the harm is caused. मतलब जो आदमी मरा, जिसने मारा, मतलब ऑफेंडर को, कातिल को ये पता होना चाहिए कि उसके उस एक्ट से सामने वाले विक्टिम की मौत हो सकती है या हो जाएगी. नॉर्मल लोगों की मौत हो ऐसा होना जरूरी नहीं है उस एक्ट में. Say there's a pregnant woman, sorry, trigger warning. There's a pregnant woman, I know about her pregnancy. I kick her in say her belly. Advanced stage of pregnancy leads to her death and the death of her unborn child. Now पेट पे लात मारना is not an inherently dangerous act. कोई नहीं मरता पेट पे लात मारने से, मतलब generally. So, but I know that it is likely to cause the death of the person to whom the harm is caused. ये खास इंडिविजुअल की मौत हो सकती थी इस एक्ट से, और मैंने वो एक्ट किया, तो दिस इज मर्डर. So इसमें essential is it should be likely to cause the death of the person to whom the harm is caused. Weak, vulnerable individuals के लिए स्टैंडर्ड लो हो जाता है. अगर ये क्लॉज नहीं होता तो ऐसे लोगों के मर्डर का प्रूव करना मुश्किल होता है, क्योंकि ऐसे लोग कम असॉल्ट से ही मर सकते हैं, उन पे खतरा हो सकता है. इसने बनाया. Okay.
So, sir, intention is of killing or it is of causing harm, grievous harm?
Intention is of causing a bodily injury, and the offender knows that such bodily injury can likely, in most probability or likelihood, cause the death of the person. अब मेरा इंटेंशन हो सकता है उस प्रेग्नेंट औरत को मारने का ना हो, उसके ऊपर असॉल्ट करने का हो. आई किक हर इन द बेली. So my intention was kicking her in the belly, but this act of mine will cause a bodily injury which is likely to cause the death of this individual. अगर इंटेंशन था मारने का तो फर्स्टली में आ जाएगा. इफ आई न्यू कि इसको मारना है, आई एम अ डॉक्टर, आई नो हाउ इट वर्क्स, मैंने उसको, फिर तो मैंने गलत इंजेक्शन लगा दिया, मतलब जहरीला नहीं, नॉर्मल गलत इंजेक्शन लगा दिया जो रिएक्शन करके डेथ कॉज कर सकता है प्रेगनेंसी में. सपोज अगर मेरा इंटेंशन था मारने का तब तो फर्स्टली में कवर हो जाएगा, बिकॉज आई हैड द इंटेंशन ऑफ कॉजिंग डेथ. और इस सब में एंड नहीं है, वो याद रखना। और secondly में I had an intention of causing an injury but the injury was likely to cause the death of that individual. Thirdly, intention of causing a bodily injury again, and to any person the injury intended to be inflicted sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death. B में secondly clause में it was not in the ordinary course of nature to cause death, it was to that person. C में मेरा इंटेंशन हर्ट करने का था लेकिन ऑर्डिनरी कोर्स में भी उस एक्ट से डेथ हो सकती है। अब मेरा किसी से झगड़ा हुआ, हाथ पैर तोड़ने का मैंने उसका, तो स्टैंडर्ड प्रैक्टिस स्टैंडर्ड प्रोसीजर मुझे बैट से मारना चाहिए उसको हाथ पैर तोड़ने के लिए, लेकिन मैं ज्यादा इंटेलिजेंट हूँ जरूरत से, मैं एक ट्रक लेके आता हूँ और प्लान करता हूँ कि इसके पैर पर ट्रक चढ़ा देते हैं, पैर तो टूट ही जाएगा। नाउ मेरा इंटेंशन उसके पैर तोड़ने का है, मैंने उसके ऊपर ट्रक चढ़ा दिया, लेकिन इन द ऑर्डिनरी कोर्स ऑफ नेचर द एक्ट इज सफिशिएंट टू कॉज डेथ। मतलब पैर की जगह पेट पे चढ़ गया तो मरा पक्के से, पैर पे मर सकता है वैसे ब्लीडिंग होने से, बहुत ज्यादा ब्लीडिंग होगी तो it is sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death, so that is also murder. I can't take a defense कि मेरा इंटेंशन तो केवल उसके पैर हाथ तोड़ने का था, क्योंकि पैर हाथ तोड़ने का इंटेंशन था तो बैट से डंडे से मारना चाहिए था मुझे, ट्रक से नहीं। And fourthly, if the person committing the act knows that it is so imminently dangerous that it must in all probability cause death or such bodily injury as likely to cause death and commit such act without any excuse for incurring the risk. इसका एग्जाम्पल हो सकता है, सपोज मेरा इंटेंशन किसी को मारने का नहीं है, मैंने एक तोप बनाई और उस तोप को मार्केट में लेके गया और चला दी, मेरा इंटेंशन बस तोप चलाना था और कुछ नहीं, मतलब कोई मरे जिए मुझे फर्क भी नहीं, मैं अपना तोप का एक्सपेरिमेंट कर रहा था, टेस्ट रन कर रहा था कि चलता है कि नहीं चलता है, मैंने उसको मार्केट में चला दिया। नाउ दैट एक्ट is so imminently dangerous that it can cause death or such injury which is likely to cause death. अब without any intention of killing anyone, my act was so dangerous that it caused death. That is also murder. Take the example of say Mumbai attacks 26/11. Even if the person says the accused says कि मैं इनमें से किसी भी 200 victims में से एक को भी जानता कहाँ था, मैं किसी को जानता ही नहीं तो मेरी क्या दुश्मनी, मैं क्यों मारूंगा, बट वो रैंडम फायरिंग कर रहा था मुंबई की सड़कों पे एंड दैट इज इन ऑल प्रोबेबिलिटी डेंजरस इनफ, दैट इज इमिनेंटली डेंजरस, तो वो भी मर्डर होता है। ये 4 क्वालिफिकेशन है मर्डर के, इनमें से किसी एक में कवर कर पाओ तो दैट वुड बी मर्डर, ना कर पाओ और फिर भी डेथ हुई हो तो कल्पेबल होमिसाइड। नाउ यू गेट इनटू इलस्ट्रेशन, इज इट क्लियर? एज फार बाकी इलस्ट्रेशंस में क्लियर हो जाएगा।
Yes, sir, clear.
Right. Okay. As I said, A ने Z को
So
गोली
means
मारी,
the
yes, yes.
so the death of a person is the basic ingredient which differentiate culpable homicide and murder.
नहीं, डेथ उसमें भी है, डेथ दोनों में है।
So you said now that if that particular person does not dies, it will amount to culpable homicide. Then.
No. Look at culpable homicide. It says whoever causes death by doing an act with an intention of causing death or with the intention of causing such injury likely to cause death or with knowledge that he is likely to cause death commits the offense of culpable homicide. Now what I wrote on the board, look at this carefully. Just a minute. दिख रहा है?
Yes, sir.
This part. डेथ सब में होगी, मतलब डेथ इज इनएविटेबल, CH हो या मर्डर हो, डेथ जरूरी है। अब डेथ अगर उन 4 रीजंस से हो जो मैंने मर्डर में बताई थी, as in a person dies, you don't know CH है मर्डर है, तो you check if a person dies by the act of another, पर्सन जानबूझ के, तो वो इस बड़े सर्कल में फॉल करेगा कहीं ना कहीं। अब सीएच और मर्डर में डिफरेंशिएट कैसे करेंगे? सीएच की कोई अलग डेफिनेशन नहीं है, यू चेक वेदर दिस इज मर्डर और नॉट। इफ दिस फॉल्स विद इन मर्डर, इट इज मर्डर। अगर मर्डर नहीं प्रूव हो पा रहा है तो सीएच होगा। इज इट क्लियर?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. So examples, illustrations, as the section says. 305 section 300. There are four illustrations, four clauses and one illustration to each. First is A ने Z को मारने के लिए Z को गोली मारी और वो मर गया. So this is covered under A. Firstly, if the act by which the death is caused is done with the intention of causing death. B, A को पता था कि Z को एक डिजीज है और वो एक ही मुक्के में मर जाएगा. उसने एक बार मारा और वो मर गया. नाउ नॉर्मली कोई एक बार मारने से नहीं मरता, लेकिन वो मर गया क्योंकि उसको डिजीज थी. अगर एक को पता था कि उसको डिजीज थी और वो एक बार मर जाएगा, तो ही कमिट्स मर्डर. बिकॉज सेकेंडली, as the offender knows to be likely to cause the death of the person to whom the harm is caused. Thirdly, see, तलवार से किसी को मार दिया. मेरा इंटेंशन तलवार से मारने का था, बट आई नो कि तलवार से किसी को मारना इज एन इनहेरेंटली डेंजरस एक्ट और कोई मर सकता है उससे, तो मर गया, तो दैट इज मर्डर. एंड डी तो फॉर एग्जांपल तो मैंने खुद ही पहले दे दिया, मुझे कुछ नया सोचना चाहिए, बट ओके. Now there are exceptions to it when CH is not murder. थोड़ा लंबा है, but basically the exceptions. पहला exceptions, sorry exception है, इधर ही. हाँ, exception है कि grave and sudden provocation होने पर उसको murder नहीं मानेंगे, CH ही मानेंगे. grave and sudden provocation के essentials तुम लोगों को पता होंगे. फर्स्ट की वो प्रोवोकेशन सॉर्ट या वॉलंटरी प्रोवोक नहीं होना चाहिए. मतलब मैंने तुमको जानबूझ के परेशान किया सो दैट तुम भड़क के मुझे मार दो, तो फिर उसकी गलती थोड़ी कम हो जाएगी, तो मर्डर से सीएच बन जाएगा वो. प्रोवोकेशन वाज नॉट गिवन बाय एनीथिंग डन इन द ओबीडियंस ऑफ लॉ. मतलब पुलिस वाले को मार रहे हैं मजे में, या फिर सी कि इट इज नॉट, provocation is not by anything done in the lawful exercise of the private defense. मतलब राइट टू प्राइवेट एक्सरसाइज करने वाले को आप प्रोवोकर नहीं बोल सकते क्योंकि खुद डिफेंड कर रहा है वो, आपने पहले अटैक किया था. These are the exceptions. Multiple examples to it. Read it yourselves. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Good night, guys. Nice having you here.